Carolyn, you're an expert in business. You've spent, so many years in the academic world of business, talking about business ethics, corporate responsibility, and such. And when we think about the economy and what's happening to the economy, business is a huge part of that. And people think a variety of different things about what the role of business is in bringing the economy to life or back to life or whatever. From your point of view, what is the role of business in the economy, and what should we be aiming for?
Well, the role of the economy is really to allow for the proper exchange of goods in a way that benefits the people who buy the goods and people who produce the goods. And in the end is to create livelihood options, i.e. jobs, and wages which are fair and support a high quality of life for everyone, not just for a few. If you look at the developed countries right now, across the world, the developed countries in Europe and in North America, we're experiencing very strong what we call wage stagnation. And that is real wages have not really changed. This is not just a US phenomenon, it's across the world. So people say, what are the explanations? Is it because the gross domestic product of a country has not grown? That is not true. There was recession, but even for the countries where the GDP has gone up, the wages are still stagnant. So it's not just a matter of economic growth. The second question is it because of trade? Is it because we have now outsourced our jobs? Well, this is not just for North America. Again, it's also for the other developed countries. So, and actually trade, there are shipping out of jobs, but there's also investments from other countries coming into our country. So there is some effect there, but does not explain it all. I think the two really important effects is automation. And automation is really has affected and will continue to affect a lot of our professions, maybe 30 to 40% of the tasks that we currently do. And we have seen this reduction in jobs despite the GDP growth and before the recession, after the recession. So I think automation is a very important issue. And finally, I also think that as the economy becomes more prosperous, there is unequal distribution, that the providers of labor have not grown and gained as the providers of capital, i.e. the shareholders. Right. So the last two things require education. If you're dealing with automation, you basically have to develop a workforce who could provide more value than just to do, what robots can do. And then I think the second part of it is for society and government to address what is a more equitable distribution. Why is it that the provider of capital get all the gains, whereas the provider of labor gets nothing? So I think those are the two big things. I think there's a lot of anger about globalization, about migrants. Globalization to some degree, but it also has benefits. Mm-hmm. And migrants didn't cause this problem. So it's really how do we prepare the workforce of developed countries for a new stage of sophistication and knowledge.
Those are huge issues, and obviously would have very complicated solutions, but very quickly, just because we're almost running out of time. When you're dealing with those kinds of systemic problems, where do you start? Because it seems like politics is, not always an easy, place to get things done. Obviously, there's a lot of stagnation in places like Congress and other parliaments. Where do you start?
So, Sebastian, I would say that the solutions are tough, but not beyond our ingenuity. As I said, automation, the counterpoint of it is education. Wage is really to look at sort of rules that could protect labor, part-time labor, what is the level of minimum wage, what are the proper leaves and support for workers, what are the unemployment insurance, what are some of the trade or automation-induced assistance that we could give people. But I think that we have to work together as a country. Divisiveness is what's killing us. We are focusing our attention on each other and say, you cannot win. If I'm winning, there's no point for me to let you win. If I'm not winning, then you cannot win either. Right. So we're not focused on the problems. That's our problem.